to the Accommodation Show. Another beautiful morning in Australia, and I am joined by the wonderful Paul Anderson all the way from the UK. Welcome to the show.
Bart, thank you so much for having me. It's really good to see you, mate. How are you?
You're very well, thanks. It's very good to see you as well. And I've been looking forward to this episode because it's one that we haven't done yet. We haven't covered off on Instagram. And I know that you are one of the people, or one of the best people in the world to talk about this particular topic. Paul, tell me a little bit about yourself, your business, and so I guess what you do for a day job, and then also why we've got you on the show to talk about Instagram.
Yeah, so I'm currently sat in Sandfield Guest House, just on the east side of Oxford City. I moved into the building way back in 1986 when I was a kid. And then in 2008, 2009, I came back from having lived in South America, bought the building and turned it into a 6-bedroom guest house. So my first guest arrived in the middle of 2009. I've run it as a one-man band pretty much ever since. So it's just me who answers the phone, just me who answers the doors, makes the beds, all that good stuff. Everything was ticking along very, very nicely, and then of course COVID struck, and I sat back and I was thinking very long and hard about what I was doing, why I was doing it, and how I was going about it. And despite always having had the adage as an entrepreneur since I was 24, 25, work hard, advertise some more, go back and advertise again, I realized that I'd stopped advertising. So back in the day, it was lumpy marketing, it was trifold brochures, pounding pavement, all that good stuff. But the advent of TripAdvisor and all the review sites and all of that type of thing, what happened was my lumpy marketing just tailed off. And I realized I was literally just surviving on word of mouth, which wasn't going to cut it for the future. So I very quickly Googled free how to advertise for free or cheaply, and of course the obvious came up: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and on it went. So I reawoke a Facebook page. I started a Twitter account. I still don't really know what Twitter is, but I hear it's good. Don't really know. But it was Instagram that really grabbed me. The creative dynamism that it afforded me, alongside a lot of the more technical aspects of how to achieve things, all of the kit and the gubbins and the cameras and all the stuff that I've managed to convince my wife that I need in order to market my business, always really intrigued me. So here in the UK, when you finish high school, you do something called A-levels. Most people do 3 or 4. I did maths, physics, economics, and art. And had I not done the art, I would never have been as good at the other 3. And Instagram provided that for me. And what soon became apparent was that my enjoyment, and my wife would say my obsession, with Instagram and creating content and delivering value and personalizing my brand for my ideal guest was coming through in my content.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to be talking about, right? So we're going to be talking about, why Instagram and how do you actually approach Instagram and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, I didn't know about that story and that journey that you've been through. I knew that you run the guest house at the moment. Set the scene for us a little bit. What does the guest house look like, and what the kind of current business and that current infrastructure? Because for those of you that are listening, or for those of you that are watching, there's a few things I really need to let you know. One is that this is going to be part of a multi-episode series where you're going to get me and Paul talking about all the things you need for your business in terms of Instagram. So we're going to be focusing just on Instagram. So if you've ever had any questions, you're like, I don't know how to do this, I don't use Instagram enough, or it's not important to my business, we're going to talk about all the reasons why Instagram is important and how you could potentially use it in this business. So make sure that you like it, you subscribe, so that you get those notifications when they pop up of the future episodes that we'll do. So going back, Paul, set the scene for us a little bit.
So Sandfield Guest House, the building Sandfield House, was built in the late 1930s, somewhere in the middle, 1937, somewhere in there. When the family moved into the building, it was just a 4-bedroom house with, I guess you'd call it a dunny, an outside dunny, outside toilet, no central heating, the electrics were shot. I absolutely hated the building. I just didn't want to be there. But over time, as we moved into it, and as a family, we kind of sweat and blood all went into it, turned it into a beautiful period building, now with 6 guest bedrooms. And then my wife and I built an extension at the back, so we have our own little bungalow kind of wedged under it. We're about 1.5 miles from dead centre Oxford City, in a very kind of leafy, semi-urban, rural type environment, surrounded by hospitals, and they would be the bread of my income. So 4 of my 6 guest rooms are single rooms. When I opened, everyone thought I was crazy. They were saying, "What are you doing? You've only got 2 double rooms. Are you insane?" And at the time, I genuinely didn't know what I was doing. I had an opportunity. I put a sign outside. I installed internet, got the fire reg sorted, and I just started trading. I didn't know what I was doing really, but it turns out that a lot of people visit a lot of people in hospitals.
Yeah.
And there are 6 within 10 minutes walk of here. My butter would be the universities. So we have 2 universities here. There's the famous one, and then there's Oxford Brookes. So I have a lot of regulars who are academics or researchers. It's not just parents visiting families, but there's always conferences going on, that type of thing. And then always to draw a contrast with Cambridge, we're much more of an industrial city. So we have the BMW Mini factory. There's a lot of printing presses here going on. There's Oxford University Press. So a lot of trade is happening here also. Most people assume that being Oxford City, I make quite a lot of money from tourists. This is not the case. Never in my history of trading have I made more than 8% from tourists, principally because I'm on the London Road in Oxford. And for those who know the geography even loosely, Oxford Street in London is literally the same piece of tarmac, and the buses go past every 15 minutes. So we get a lot of day trippers in on this side of Oxford City. Large grounds. Thinking about infrastructure, really, it's just a 6-bed guest house, essentially, with ensuite rooms, and it's warm and comfortable, and we've done everything we can to keep all the period features and the coving. We're quite fortunate in this neighbourhood in that the gentleman who built this built about 15 or 20 around the neighbourhood, but this one was his.
Yeah.
So we have a lot more interesting things than some of the other buildings in terms of
So you got the history.
shattered corners and massive coving. I don't know if you can see behind me.
Yeah.
Period fireplaces. So this was like his pick of the bunch. We feel very,
see the
very
history.
fortunate
And
to live in here in Oxford.
Actually, if anyone's watching, so you can't see it so much in behind you, but if you look in the mirror, you can see the top of the ceiling, which is quite interesting. So there's a mirror behind you. So if anyone's watching, they can spy on the other side of your room. Now, look, I want to bring something to the attention just there, and this is to all the listeners and anyone that's watching. When I asked Paul to tell us about his business, it was really interesting. He started talking about his target market and all the people that he's working with and convincing to come to his place, which is something that you was kind of, I don't know if it was subconscious or conscious, but kind of your elevator pitch was more like, these are all the kind of people that I talk to, that I try to get to come and stay with me. So that was where the scene was set, rather than going, I've got this building or that building. He's actually talking about his avatar or demographic that he's targeting, and we will talk about demographic and avatar, but probably a little bit in the future. But I love how you set the scene there. It really sort of gave me an idea of who your target audience is. And I think that if you are in a hotel and if you are in a bed and breakfast, if you're in a short-term rental or in a motel, you need to be able to talk about your audience and the people that are coming to visit you.
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, without my guests, I wouldn't have a business. I mean, granted, if I didn't have a building, I wouldn't have a business. But equally, as a one-man band in a building that I've known for 35 years or so, it's very important to me that I attract the right people, because I have guests, and I wouldn't bat an eyelid if they checked out and something permanent and nasty happened to them. I like to have a particular type of person, and I very much target all of my content at those individuals, not just academics, but an academic. And that means that I am happier, they're happier. And so for me, everything starts with the guest, what they want, understanding their expectations, managing them. And once they're managed, it then makes it very easy to exceed them.
Yeah. So let's crack into it a little bit in terms of Instagram and Facebook. And there's a few things I want to clear up before we get going. One is, in terms of talking about Instagram and what we're about to talk about, are we just talking to people that have kind of, I'll call it a boutique accommodation like yourself, or are we talking to everybody? Is it like hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, short-term rentals? Is that kind of, if the listener is in any of those categories, will this information apply to them?
Absolutely, and I think that list goes on. Campsites, glamp sites, caravan sites, hotels, B&Bs, guest houses. Whether you're small or whether you're large, whether you have a collection of short-term rentals, a portfolio, simply because Instagram is such a wide top end of a funnel that if you get it right and you teach the algorithm who and what you're about, the algorithm, a lot of people will say things like, oh, the algorithm hates me, I'm working against the algorithm. But the algorithms are there to match your content with people who will value it. So if you are constantly targeting, to go back briefly on the avatar piece, if you're constantly targeting that one individual or that very small subset of individuals, then the algorithms are there to match your content with the people who will value that. And so in many respects, the algorithm is automatically targeting your marketing for you, providing you teach it consistently what you're about, who you are, why you do what you do, what you provide to guests. And in so doing, you can take that 2 billion and the algorithms will slice it for you and push them onto your page. It's then our job to convert them, to get them off Instagram, get them onto our websites and get a book now button in front of them.
Yeah, I love that, and the talk about algorithm, how the algorithm actually works, and you're absolutely right that it's not a mystical thing. It's trying to do is trying to provide the right content to the right people, so that it engages them, so they stay on Instagram or onto Facebook or everything like that, to provide valuable information as well, stuff that's going to interest them, stuff that's going to be relevant to them. And what's interesting is, even you'll know this with Instagram or any of your social media, pre-COVID and post-COVID are completely different. So you kind of have to figure out your audience because everyone's got a bit older, everything's changed out there. But let's rewind a bit, and when we talk about our choice of social media platform, why Instagram?
So for me, Instagram presents an enormous dynamic range of creative possibilities. And this means that hosts, hotel owners, B&B owners can either pick and choose what they prefer, or they can merge them and they can mix all those formats up. So some people are very, very happy personalizing their brand, personalizing their business, getting their faces, their voices out in front of the camera and pitching that way. I'm comfortable doing it. I wasn't originally, but I needed to be because I'm the person who opens the door. I'm the person who answers the phone. I'm the person on the end of the email. It's just me. Equally, the graphics, the carousels, now with the Reels templates where you can just automatically upload a series of images, just allows people to personalize how they present and showcase their property and their amenities. Now, it's not to say that Instagram is any better than Facebook or any better than TikTok. It's just very, very, very broad. And I think if you were to put Instagram in the middle, TikTok would creep in on one side and Facebook would creep in the other. But if you put Facebook in the middle, TikTok wouldn't be anywhere near it. So as an all-encompassing platform with more than 2 billion monthly active users, it's a very effective funnel, essentially, in order to attract your ideal guest like a magnet. It's inbound marketing, it's content marketing, it's not outbound, and just draw people in.
Yeah, and what appeals to me a lot about Instagram, which seems to be not understood so much, is the virality of it. So if you post something up, because of the format and because of the way that it displays the content, people can get through an awful lot of it. And therefore you've got more likelihood of people actually seeing the content that you're actually producing.
Absolutely right. And I think also if you were then to combine it with, so to rewind a little bit, Instagram went very, very heavy on short form video content in order to try and combat the onslaught, as it saw, of TikTok. What it then very quickly realized is that people were on Instagram because they want Instagram. If they want TikTok, they go to TikTok. Now, the two sets of algorithms, there's no one algorithm. Instagram has tens of thousands of algorithms constantly at play. The TikTok one is all about entertainment. The Instagram algorithms are all about value. So both of them are designed to keep people on the platform for as long as possible. So when we create content, it's very transactional when we then post it up on Instagram. So if we create valuable content directed at our ideal guest, and they spend time with it, the algorithms will then push it out to more people who are very similar to that first set of viewers.
So what you're
but the really key part about that is that if you then add in the distinction that Instagram is trying to make now from TikTok and some of the other kind of younger platforms, is it's really, really pushing hard on SEO and searchability. It's looking at keywords, the map functionality. It's in its early fledgling stages. I wouldn't say it's clunky, but it's got a long way to go, whereby if you put your location into a post, people can then tap that location and they can see all the other creators in that area. So if you're the only B&B on an island somewhere and you're doing that and someone wants to go and visit that island, you're going to be the person who pops up. You're going to be the person, whether you're rural or whether you're urban, if you can get ahead of the curve and use the map function. Even in your profile, there is a tappable link that will take you either through to an Instagram map where you can look for local restaurants, bars, other hotels you can compare with the competition, but also through to somewhere like Google Maps, and you go, right, well, how long is it going to take me to drive there? Okay, it's only 2 hours. Let's have a little dig deeper. So the combination of the functionality of keywords and SEO with the location, with the creative dynamism, with the possibility of going not necessarily massively viral, but viral for you, creates, I would argue strongly, a perfect opportunity to showcase what you do and literally just push people onto your website. Once you've got them on your website, they're no longer distracted by all the other stuff, because as you said, Bart, people get through lots of content very, very quickly. If you can grab them, take them where you want them, you've got their undivided
attention. Yeah, look, I love all of that. I absolutely love it. I love that sort of understanding of how we get our guests to interact with our property before they've kind of even thought of staying with us. If we talk about Instagram and if I was to talk about like 2023, 2024 as a year, and we were to say, which platform do we really want to focus on and double down on? For us as a business, it's 100% Instagram, because we know that you can build a really strong following very quickly, but you need to get your messaging absolutely spot on, because otherwise it can be very confusing for people. Talk to me a bit about sort of building a brand on Instagram, and how we make sure that it makes sense for our customers.
So that most of your audience, but I'm sure, would be aware of the ideal guest, the guest avatar concept. So I'm not going to teach anyone to suck eggs there. But what many hosts forget is the next step, and that is to describe 4, 5, or 6 content pillars, as they're known in the marketing world. And content pillars is just an unfancy way of saying topics you know your ideal guest is going to enjoy. And you describe 4, 5, or 6 of those, depending on the nature of your business. Classics would be local places to eat and drink, local attractions indoors, local attractions outdoors, reviews, and unique selling points. What sets you apart from your competition? You accept dogs, or you have a llama grooming shop out the back, or whatever that happens to be. And then simply, consistently posting just within that framework. Because what that does is it achieves 2 things. It means that you know that you are always delivering value to your ideal guest, whatever you're posting about. Instead of just, oh, Happy New Year. Well, yeah, Happy New Year, that's nice. So what? Why is that going to make anyone come and book with you? Because everyone else is saying Happy New Year, all at midnight around the world. So if you stick with those half dozen topics and those pillars, what that also does, because the algorithm is not only looking at viewer behavior, it's looking at creator behavior. So if you're consistently sending the same message on the same 5 or 6 topics, and you're doing it once a day, or 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or just once a week, whatever it is, as long as it's consistent, then the algorithm will learn what you do, when you do it, how you do it, and go, okay, I know these people are interested in it because they've been interested in it before. They will then engage, and then the algorithms will push it out to more people. So the key part of the messaging is to identify topics that you know your ideal guest will always be interested in hearing, and just talk about those. I'll give you a really good example. I posted, it was a picture of a boat with a little story about a place where it used to be legal to skinny dip in Oxford about 150 years ago. Okay, and that was in January of 2022. I posted the exact same post with the exact same words January this year, and it was triple the reach and triple the exposure, because I've been essentially training the algorithm to expect that type of content, usually at the beginning of the week, not at the end of the week, and it just pushed it to everyone who had enjoyed it the previous time, and then more people. So you can repeat topics, and you can create a whole list of subtopics within that you can roll through, but you're still talking about the same thing. So eco credentials here is one of my pillars, but within that I can talk about being 100% carbon positive. I can talk about the EV charging point. I can talk about Oxford City being the first city in the country to have a zero emission zone. I can talk about the local public transport being hybrid. So even though I'm within that pillar, I can still be rolling through the topics, and as a result, my followers and non-followers will ultimately learn what I'm talking about, what I'm about, and the algorithm will do exactly the same thing. And then the algorithm is helping me get in front of the right people, the people who want to come and stay here.
Yeah, look, that's so golden. That those tips, and a good way to think about it for those of you that don't use Instagram so much. If you look at some of the biggest social media influencers or social media profiles, you'll see that they've got highlights on their actual profile, and those highlights are generally those lanes or those topics that they talk about on a consistent basis. And what you want to find between yourself and Instagram is, and raising that brand awareness, are those topics that are still relevant to you and relevant to your business, but are going to be appealing to your guests, and things that you become a bit of an expert on, or that they'll seek you out for. And I like the idea of local things to do. I like the sustainability angle. So you need to try to find those, and you can use all sorts of tools. You can Google it to try to find some ideas. You can use ChatGPT to really understand what those 3, 4, 6 different pillars are, but don't make it too many different content pillars or too many different topics that you're talking about, because then once again you'll create a lot of confusion for your guests.
Absolutely, Bart. And highlights equally are when it comes to branding on a graphic level. You've got your profile photo, your profile picture. I would recommend that as a standout logo. Better yet, particularly if you're at my end of providing accommodation, running a guest house, would be to personalize that by putting your face in it. But the Instagram highlights themselves, you can then color coordinate them to match your branding, because the viewer journey to your book now button goes through from a post. They enjoy the post, they want to see more, they go to your profile. Your profile is just a first impression. Depending on the age of the viewer, you have between 3 and 8 seconds to make that first impression. The viewer will then do one of 3 things. They will either get on with their lives because you're not for them. They'll follow you for later because they think, oh, actually, I might want to come back to this. I quite fancy a holiday in Italy or on the Gold Coast. Or they'll hit that link in bio. And if you've used your brand colors in your feed and in your highlights, when they go from the post to your profile and onto your website, that journey becomes seamless. They don't feel like they've gone anywhere. But actually what you've done is you've taken them from Instagram with all dancing dogs and people falling off land, all the Instagram jazz, and you've got them into your world. And that's absolutely key. To come back to highlights also, I describe highlights as the perfect place to put decision-making information in front of your next potential guest.
So elaborate on that for me, yeah.
Instagram highlights are built from Instagram stories. Most people dismiss Instagram stories because once you post them, they're live for 24 hours, then they go to story heaven. But what you can do is, if you sit down and you consider, say, the top 6 questions that you are repeatedly asked by your guests, you can create a series, an FAQ series, with a cover, FAQs I answered. Do I have Wi-Fi? Do you do car parking? What time can I check in? Do you serve breakfast? Da, da, da. And then you can have another one and another one and another one answering all those questions in very basic format. You can delete them from your stories, but they go into an archive. And then you pull that archive into the highlight and you call it FAQs, which means that rather than someone going onto your page, fiddling around with posts, maybe going onto your website, can't find what they want because it's fragmented, you've answered all of that there. So you take away the resistance from anyone actually looking a little bit deeper. So by the time they do get to your website, they've had all their questions answered, or they've seen all the local places that you've negotiated deals with, or they know why you're particularly special. So when they get to your website, particularly if you've taken those content pillars, those topics, and you've used that to craft the words on your hero image and everything that follows, and the colors match, they're almost at the book now button before they even need to read anything else.
Yeah. Look, the other tip that I'll give to people, and this is another little hack, is you can get a reel and then you can repost the reel as a story, and that story can then be put into a highlight. So a little bit, I guess, conceptually something that we will also come back to in future episodes. But I have a couple of final questions for you to wrap up this one,
Sure.
because next week we will be talking about converting Instagram lookers into bookers. So how do we use Instagram to get more direct bookings, and how do we create the right messaging, the right consistency, which I know that you've already been hinting at in this episode. But one of the things when we think about Instagram, and we've got excited, we've listened to the episode, we're like, okay, great, I'm going to get onto Instagram. So you're going to set up your profile, and we'll talk about that as well next week, is how to set up the profile and what you need to think about. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, if I'm going to do Instagram and I don't want to be in front of the camera, do I need to be, and conversely, what's the value of placing yourself as part of the brand?
I think in many respects it can depend upon the nature of your business and how personal it is. So I'm very much at one end of the spectrum. When I open the door to guests who have seen me either doing silly stuff or sensible stuff on Instagram, they're not surprised it's me. They know my name. They know what I sound like. They know my personality. They know that I take my work very, very seriously, but I don't take myself very, very seriously. All that good stuff. Because Sandfield Guesthouse is a very personal brand, particularly because I've lived here for so long. At the other end of the spectrum, if you're an individual with, 15, 10, 5 properties in lots of different locations, and you're managing them all, and you're not the person who's on the ground, then personalizing your business with your voice and your face becomes less important. That said, if, for example, you are the type of person where you are the customer service, even though you're remote and people are going to be talking to you and coming to you with issues, even if it's only for a few hours of a day that you take ownership of that instead of the customer service team, then using your voice will start to make you recognizable. People will start to believe what you say, and they'll begin to trust you. And then when they do come to make that booking, they see your face on the website, founder or CEO of such and such, then they will already have made that connection. And it's more than just breaking the fourth wall as such. It actually creates an emotional connection, believe it or not. All the chemicals, they get triggered. They go, oh, I know who this person is. And you have a level of expectation and anticipation as to who they are and what they're going to do. Equally, I think having kind of a morals and ethics policy behind any business is a very good idea. What do you stand for? Are you all about eco? Are you all about helping the local community? Or whatever you are, then communicating that in whatever you do, whether that's vocally or whether it's in your text or whether it's visually, if you can do that with a person, it's always much more powerful than just black on white text.
Yeah. Look, I couldn't agree more with the sentiment behind posting yourself up and that connection that you can bring into your audience. But there's also so many ways that you can get away with not being the front or the face of your business, and it still work really well to create that emotional connection. And you can do it through amazing photography. You can do it through amazing, valuable content, which really appeals to your guests. And we will talk about it more in our future episodes. Folks, if you've been watching the episode, thank you so much. If you're listening, thank you so much as well. Make sure that you like and subscribe. But before we go, Paul, what's the best way for people to find you in all this rich goodness?
So the best way, naturally, is on Instagram. So I am at the social media Hotelier. My link in bio, there's lots of free materials on guest avatars, on Reels creation, on strategy. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, all of that stuff is there as well. I've been doing this for about 18 months or so, and all I've been doing pretty much for all of that time is just giving out free content and free help and free advice, essentially for hosts, from a host. So go have a rummage around. You can direct message me, but at the social media Hotelier on Instagram is the best way to get hold of me.
And I'll put the link to that in the show notes. And then I tell you also have your business profile as well. If people wanted to have a look, we can give that link as well.
My business profile, Bart.
Oh, so you're using both for the same accommodation?
No. Okay. So I have at Sandfield Guest House for the guest house. This was a side hustle. It's now a second career. So when people ask me, what's your full-time job? I go, oh, is it the Royal Air Force? Is it the guest house? It's all three. So my wife says I have a portfolio career. So the guest house is at Sandfield Guest House.
Beautiful. I'll put that in the show notes as well so people can have a look at everything that you preach in practice as well. Folks, like I said, this is a multi-part series, so make sure that you like and subscribe and you will get notifications of the future episodes. The next one 100% is going to be about turning Instagram lookers into bookers. How do we convert people into direct bookings? Paul, thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening, and I'm super looking forward to doing our next episode together.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Bart. It was an absolute delight.
Cheers. Thanks.